Hi, friends. It's Miss B. I'm here to read with my daughter Aubrey.
Hi.
And her little friend Sparky.
Mm.
And we're going to read chapter 3 of The Story Puppy, which is a trip to the rescue center. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Maddie slumped down on the couch next to Jack. You want to do some reading now? She asked, smothering a yawn. I've got time. Jack felt himself tensing up, but he nodded. I'll get the book. He was still trying to work his way through the one with the golden retriever on the cover, but he wasn't enjoying it very much. It was too hard to get into the story, and he kept forgetting what had happened. He had read with Maddie and Mom a couple of times over the weekend, and he thought it might be helping, but it was all so difficult. He and Maddie struggled through a page to the end of the chapter and looked at each other hopefully. We could stop there, Jack suggested. Maddie nodded. Mom's making dinner. It'll be ready in a minute. Did you go to the rescue after classes today? Jack asked. Uh-huh. What's the matter? Now that he looked at her closely, Maddie seemed really upset. Jack hadn't even noticed. His big sister tried not to tell him about the sad parts of working at the rescue, but he knew she came home worrying about the cats and dogs a lot. Maddie rested her chin on her hands and heaved a big sigh. It's one of the new dogs, she explained. Then she looked at him. You're sure you want me to tell you? Yes, said Jack, a little doubtfully. She's a puppy, really little and so sweet. She's white and a little fluffy. She probably has some Maltese in her, Susan thinks. Susan was the manager at the rescue. I named her. Maddie smiled, but then her face faded. Her name is Daisy. Why are you so sad if she's so sweet? Jack asked, hugging himself tightly. He almost wished he hadn't let Maddie start telling him. Susan says she's not sure we'll ever be able to find a home for her. Why? What's wrong with her? Jack frowned. Maddie was always telling him how the rescue workers were desperate to find good homes for all the animals. She really wanted them to adopt a dog, but Mom wasn't sure with everyone in the family so busy with work and school. She didn't think they'd be able to take care of a dog very well. Jack thought they'd be fine. Every time he went to the rescue with Maddie, he fell in love with a different dog, but they hadn't managed to persuade Mom yet. She's so nervous and miserable, Maddie explained. She won't go to anyone, and she hides whenever we bring food or we come to clean out her pen. She doesn't trust people, and she seems to hate being touched. I think someone was horrible to her. We get nervous dogs all the time, and dogs who are upset because their owners have died, and they hate being in the rescue. But usually they start to get a little friendlier after a while. That's not happening with Daisy. She's been at the rescue a week, and she still won't let any of us come near her. She's such a little dog, only a baby. It's not fair. Oh, Jack leaned against Maddie's shoulder. That's really sad. I wish I could help her, Maddie said, but I just don't know how. Maddie was picking Jack up from school the next day. Amara had art club, and Mom was working, so she took him with her to the rescue. Jack helped out, filling up food bowls in the kitchen, and then he went for a walk around. He knew all the staff and most of the volunteers by now, and no one minded him being there as long as he didn't upset any of the animals. He tried to give some attention to a couple of cats, but they were dozing and only peered sleepily at him when he crouched down outside their pens. There was a whole litter of black and white kittens, though, who were more interesting. Jack watched them for a while, laughing as they stalked each other's tails across the pen, and then collapsed and fell asleep in a furry bundle on the floor. After that, he went to visit the dogs. He'd seen most of them before. There were a couple of elderly dogs whom nobody seemed to adopt. They'd been at the rescue for months. Jack's favorite was a wheezy, light brown pug. Noel's favorite is pugs, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No one had been feeling very imaginative the day he was brought in, so he was just named Pug. He met Jack with excited, squeaky barks, and Jack sat down on the floor by his pen and petted him through the wire. Pug stood there with his eyes closed and his curled tail whirring while Jack scratched his ears under his chin. 5 more minutes, okay? Maddie said, hurrying past. Just got to help Susan finish feeding everybody. Okay, said Jack, and then he had a thought. Hey, Maddie! She turned around, walking backwards with her arms full of food bowls. What? Which pen is the new puppy in? Maddie stopped. Daisy? Jack nodded. I just wanted to see her, he said. He hadn't been able to stop thinking about the little white puppy ever since Maddie had told him how unhappy she was. She's not any better, Jack. Susan told me. You'll be upset seeing her. I don't care, Jack said stubbornly. If you didn't want me knowing about her, why did you tell me? Maddie sighed. I shouldn't have. Okay, she's in the pen at the end. It's the quietest one. She doesn't seem to like the other dogs barking. I'm about to go and put her food bowl in, actually. You can come with me. Just don't scare her, all right? Of course I won't, Jack said indignantly, but then he nodded. I promise I won't, Maddie. I only want to see her. You'll be lucky if you do, Maddie said over her shoulder as she went down the hallway. When I went past earlier, she was hiding underneath her bed. She sounds so scared. Jack petted Pug one last time and then got up to follow her. All the dogs knew it was time for their dinner, and they were watching excitedly as Maddie came along with the bowls. She slipped into the pens, talking lovingly to each of the dogs as she gave them their food. Mostly they tried to eat it before she had even put the bowl down, but when they got to the pen at the end, as far as Jack could see, it was empty. Then he remembered what Maddie had said about the puppy being under her bed. It did look lumpy in the middle. Was there really a puppy there? Too scared to come out? Maddie quietly opened the pen and put down the bowl. Then she came out again, looking worried. We'll wait here for a minute, she said to Jack, beckoning him to come a little farther down the hallway where they could just about see Daisy's pen. I want to make sure she's okay, and checking that she's actually eating her dinner. Jack nodded, and they both stood there, craning their necks sideways. After a minute or two, the dog bed shifted a little, and a whiskery white face appeared. Daisy looked around cautiously for a moment or two, and then patted across the pen to her bowl. But she kept darting anxious glances at the hallway, as if she thought something scary was about to happen. She's so small, Jack breathed in Maddie's ear. I know. She's probably about 8 weeks old. That's just old enough to leave her mom. Isn't she sweet? She'd be adopted right away if she wasn't so timid. Jack's stomach seemed to turn over inside him. Maddie had said that the puppy had been dumped by the side of the road. He couldn't imagine who would do that to such a tiny dog. Looking at her now, shivering as she tried to eat, he decided he'd do anything to make her better. Daisy was almost sure that someone was watching her eat. She could smell people, or thought she could. The smells here were all so strange and strong. The sharp scent of the spray the staff used to clean the pen seemed to sting her nose. Whoever it was didn't come closer, though, so she kept scarfing down the food. The faster she ate, the faster she could hide herself away again. She didn't want anyone to notice her. It was safe there, tucked under her bed in the warm and the dark. It reminded her of being snuggled up with her mother, and even though the hard floor of the pen made her bruised paw hurt, it was definitely better being under the bed than in it. She licked quickly around the bowl and darted away, burrowing back underneath the soft bed. Then she lay there listening, tense all over, until she heard the footsteps go away. And that's it for Chapter 3. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.